Welcome to Full Metal RPG live from the Balanceifer Castle in the stately hills of Annandale. We whatever. We're all live in the same place. I'm not going to do the intro.
Hey, everybody.
So I've got Noland. You just heard Noland with me today.
Yep. Happy to be here.
I've got Kayla. What's up, Kayla?
Hey, everyone. I guess I am Lady Kayla today if we're coming from my castle.
Right, exactly. And we got Tyler.
Hey, thanks for doxing me, man.
I mean, I can take that out if you want.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
All right. Take two.
I was kidding. I thought that was a funny joke, but never mind.
Yeah. So we're here at yeah, you can if you're going to talk on microphone, damn it. But yeah, we're here in the aftermath of too much beverages and recycling bins overfilled with our lovely habits as adults for NACON or SaltCon or FriendCon, whatever you want to call it, 2023. Everybody looks very excited right now. We're all like, there were dogs and children, and it was a madhouse this weekend.
Bourbon,
right?
and yes, everybody's a little hungover, and yeah, we're definitely in peak podcasting.
Yeah, this is.
We are well biscuited.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we had amazing biscuits. If you're in the area, the
Preservation Biscuit Company.
Oh yeah, those biscuits. You have to unhinge your jaw to eat one of those biscuits. That's how tall they are. So. But we wanted to talk about a little bit about what we did this weekend, and then we'll get into Scum and Villainy, which we played this weekend. And then next episode will be Phoenix Dawn Command, and then we'll be doing a review of Phoenix Command later in the month.
1980s.
Phoenix, yeah, completely different thing.
Is that going out to everybody? Is that a patron?
No, that'll go out to everybody. Yeah, cool. It's too weird of a show to not give it to everybody. Plus, I don't have it set up to just send the patrons things that they actually see. So, well, thank you very much for hosting us this year.
Yeah, super happy we didn't have to travel, so that's always nice.
Secret plan: buy castle so everyone can come to your house so you don't have to go traveling. Yeah.
To be fair, we did rent a castle one time, and then plans changed, and we had to drop that rental.
Oh, right. I forgot that people are still sore about that. Okay.
Rented an actual castle.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't an actual castle. It was a castle in America, which means it's not actual castle, but close enough because you could, due to capitalism, people build castles to rent them out. So, yeah, we kind of started off getting everybody together, and it was just, I think it's the same thing with every post vaccination get together I've ever been, is there's a lot of preamble talking to get going, right? We had to bullshit for at least a day to get everybody used to each other again, right?
Yeah, we were slow to get together, and I think you're right. I think that is a post-pandemic kind of malady where everyone's like trying to remember, how do I be social again? Like, oh yeah, I think I know how to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's also the like, man, I haven't got to talk to these people like in person in so long. Let's just like spend a whole day talking so that we can get that all out of the system.
We also kind of expanded our normal NACON lineup because we brought in wives and families, and people had kids here, and it was a whole lot wider of a net.
Yeah, it was a great to have everybody here. There were, it's always with the Friend Convention. That's kind of what we'll end up talking about how we kind of organize this. But having people be able to like, opt in and opt out of any activity, I think is super important.
Yeah.
It's the open table principle, right? And I think we have enough people. We should really be running 2 games at once. But that's my own particular trying to push that rock up the hill.
Yeah, in years past, we used to schedule on a spreadsheet and like make sure, who's running the morning slot and who's running the afternoon slot, and that kind of thing. It's like, we'll get to it when we get to it.
Well, we still make the intention. We still make a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
But nobody wants to schedule their game.
Right. They all just end up in the bottom in the like, well, I am running this whenever.
Right. Yeah. It's like, oh, whatever. I'm just gonna I would like to run this thing. I've prepped it or I've not prepped it, but we're still going to try to run it. Trying to read through like 800 pages of book before trying to learn or run 2 games, and classic.
I still owe Kayla Kids on Brooms from 2 NACONs ago.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
Well, maybe, just maybe, next time and or online. Either one. I think she'll take either one at this point.
That is true. That is a game that you could totally run online just fine.
Then I have to deal with online tabletops, and I'm too old for this.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's why we enjoy all getting together, because we've been gaming. Well, I've been gaming with Nolan since like 94.
Yeah, I think
so. That's 1994, not 1894. Thank you,
You're
assholes.
quite old, but not quite that old.
Yes. We're going to die soon, but not that
Nolan's
soon.
a vampire. It's okay.
That's true. He does still look like he's 12.
I am nocturnal also.
But yeah, I think this was all born out of like wanting to do something kind of opposite of Gen Con, right? Because we also used to go to Gen Con, right? And that became very difficult. But also we wanted to, before it became difficult, we were also like, we want to do this again. We were so high on being together for Gen Con that we decided that we wanted to try and herd the cats one more time a year.
Yeah, and March, February, late winter, when everyone's like, I don't want to, be inside. Let's go somewhere warm and have a con or something.
Right. Yeah, that was an idea, to go where it was warm, and I don't think we've only succeeded at that twice, but like
yeah, Atlanta was our first one. I think it's a kind of a warm adjacent.
It's unseasonably cold right now as well.
But like even when we were in Tampa, it was cold in Tampa. So fail.
Yeah, that was weird. I mean, Paul even had to break out his northern hoodie when he was in his own town. So yeah, it was not exactly. But we wanted to get together and play games in person, because all of us used to play for hours and hours and hours in person. So that's what we're all sort of slightly nostalgic for, I think. And
oh god, those like 6-hour games we used to do in marathon.
I think we ended up at 8 or 10 hours some nights.
We would plan for 6, and then it'd be like, oh, it's too good, we can't stop at 6 hours.
We can do one more thing. We got another thing.
Yeah, we got to finish this boss battle, man.
I mean, I will say what I will about those the guy that ran those games, but he could run forever. Like that was his superpower. Whether it was good or not was a completely different question.
And you would have something prepped every single week.
Yes. It was a weekly game that was that long. Yeah.
There's a lot to be said for reliability in gaming groups.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we all could aspire to. And I know that life, as we all get older, life becomes more and more in the way. It finds a way to do the thing. So yeah, but trying to get everybody together, right, is a difficult task when you're in the same city, let alone have the privilege and the power to be able to go to another city altogether, even if it's some other person's regular convention, let alone convention at somebody's Airbnb or castle. Right. So how do we feel like I feel like we have a strong bond as a group to get together and do things, but like, how do you feel like we are able to kind of get people to kind of get on board the idea?
So I will say something that is subtle and kind of behind the background that drives us together more often is the fact that we have kind of somewhat continuous communication. We've got a Slack channel. I know lots of people have a Discord. If you want to get together with your friends more often, I would actually say like open up a Slack or a Discord or something and be chatting and sharing memes and stuff every so often, like just so you're kind of still in constant contact. And it's not one of those like, oh, hey, remember me from
Yeah.
from high school? Like whatever. Because every so often, then sometime around November, December, someone will pipe up in the SaltCon channel that's been quiet for 9 months and say, hey, anybody, what are we going to do about SaltCon this year? And that's usually what tickles us to
Right.
start it each year, and keeps us in contact, which drives us wanting to get together.
Well, I think it's like we start with, we're so high after the convention that we plan a little bit, like maybe the location, right? And then it goes quiet.
Yeah.
For 9 months as it's being birthed. And then it will pick up when, hey, should we start buying plane tickets? And I say, no, I want to spend twice as much as I should flying to a place. Would you please shut up?
Yeah, I think it's like one of the things is we always have the intention for it. So I think that the common knowing of like, this is a thing that we intend to do. It's set for like once a year. We're going to make sure that we get this thing taken care of. And then like, as it like you're saying, like with the Slack thing, just checking in and, hey, we're getting up on a year. Are we doing this thing or are we not doing this thing?
Right.
You have a pile of adults who have some form of probably ADHD or otherwise, and setting reminders, which I know that we're actually pretty decent at doing, also helps. So
I'm also good at ignoring reminders. Thank you very much. But yeah, I think if you have an online group that you love playing with, I highly recommend trying at least once a year, be like, hey, can we, if international, I know is very difficult, but if you're in the same basic vicinity, I think it's really, the country's not that big, but it is expensive. It is a privilege that we have the money and power to do so, but I think it's well worth it to get in person for like a weekend. Because we've expanded. That's the other part of this. Is originally it was 2 days. Like we'd get in on Friday and leave on Sunday. And now we're at like Tuesday, Wednesday and leave on Sunday.
Some people came in the weekend before, yeah.
Yeah, the weekend
and
before.
Spent the whole weekend in the DC area.
It's the privilege of having a castle you can base camp out of. So
right.
I mean, it doesn't hurt that we did not pay the housing fee this year to like help with the costs, which Airbnb can sometimes, or insert your chosen house rental company here.
Right.
That you have to go through.
Highly recommend renting a house because we did it in a hotel room for the first couple of years.
Yeah.
And that was pretty tough. Like we tried and we were all jammed together like it was Gen Con. Like it was really very much a flashback experience. So like 2 hotel rooms and then we'd all worth of people would get into one hotel room and all try and play one game, and it's just too much.
Yeah, it was too crowded, and we even talked about renting one of the hotel conference rooms or something that they use for business meetings and so forth. We looked at the price of that and it's like, why don't we just rent for that price? Why don't we just rent a house and have a kitchen table?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was me because like Tyler's telling me about y'all's plans to like do the hotel thing, and I'm like, why? Get a house. Y'all are grown adults. Get a house with a table.
Well, we're all old and don't remember that this is a service that we can get over the internet. Like we live on the internet, but we forget that the internet can provide so many services, right?
Like tables.
Like tables at buildings that have tables in them that also have beds instead of.
What is this electricity?
Well, I would, yeah. Well, we even did it in a place where you could walk to the food court in the mall that was attached to the hotel. Like it was very Gen Con adjacent. Like, but yes, electricity is welcome and appreciated, as well as an amazing gaming room that you two have. So,
do we have any other tips on how people can get their friends together?
I think also just making fun of people continuously as to whether they're coming or not.
Oh yeah,
In the continuous channels,
definitely the peer pressure.
the goading and the peer pressure is very important, I think. It hasn't worked on one person for a while, but we'll he has his own problems. But yeah, I think just talking about it, like if you're super excited about the idea, like being the person and be like, hey, what are you doing in this time frame? What are you doing? As I've said, I'm done organizing conventions,
right?
But I still organize a convention.
Yeah.
Like it's, but yeah, I think that's my last tip about this is that, and maybe buy flats of beer and other booze so you don't have to keep going back. Whatever your snack of choice and or beverage of choice is, have just stacks
Intoxicating
of
substance of choice.
Yeah.
Do they sell bourbon in kegs?
Yes, they do. That's a little more difficult to find. But yeah.
Pirates. We just need to be pirates.
Yeah, just have it kegged for us. We should probably do it in bourbon country one year and then just go on a bourbon tour and then have them keep one on hand. We can buy a share and every year have one bottle of that or two or three.
SaltCon next year. Let's rent a tall ship.
I'm sure that could be arranged.
Probably is such a thing.
Yeah. I'm sure that there would be a lot of vomiting though, so maybe not that, but
and maybe
not from seasickness, just from like tapping the rum case.
Oh yeah, no, it would be clearly a dock. Like we are not anywhere skilled enough to actually take a tall ship anywhere.
Depends on how much rum we've consumed.
I mean, we can say we're taking it, but it's probably going to sink in the harbor. So
if you sunk it in the harbor, that would be impressive.
I think it has been done and can be done. We have the will, we have the way.
It would cost you the same regardless.
Yeah, it's true. It doesn't matter where it sinks. You're still going to pay for the stupid thing. So, yeah, I think that's
good. Should we move on to talking about what we did?
Yeah, let's talk about what we. So yeah, we had kind of a warm up day. That's kind of what I led off with, right? It's kind of like we played some board games though that day, right?
Yeah, what did you?
Yeah, I think we did board games, and then we're talking Thursday, right? Yeah, board games, and then I think we capped the night off with just like random party games of like the Jackbox Party Pack series or whatever.
Quiplash.
Yeah, we all crowded into one living room and accused each other of being aliens. It's sort of a role playing game, except everyone's on their phone.
Actually, it's more like Werewolf or Mafia. Or
yeah.
So it is exactly the same as a role-playing game.
Well, it depends on what level of involvement you get into when you're playing your role-playing games. So,
yeah. But we sent aliens out of the ship, or sometimes murdered humans, and that was fantastic. As my alien danced on a ship.
Right. Was Above and Below that was that on Thursday, or was that?
Yeah, Above and Below was on Thursday as well, which is a like choose your own adventure role playing game. I think it's a really good
Well, it's a worker placement board game, right?
Yes, it's worker placement. Choose your own adventure. You basically have this little village thing that you're building, and the spot that you found like this vast network of caves below as well, and so you can send your little workers or your little villagers down in at least pairs because buddy system. And you can go down into the caves to adventure, and that's where the choose your own adventure piece comes in. Like there's this woman who says that the fish people stole one of her chests, and she needs your help to go get it back, but that the fish people don't generally steal from others. Like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, there's generally a lesson in the decision, and usually that lesson is, thankfully, don't kill brown people. because it's whatever the monsters are. You're not supposed to kill the monsters. You're supposed to help the monsters in some way or shape or form, and you will be rewarded because there's a reputation for yourself in the cave. Like I finally figured out the iconography because the reputation track in this game is going down in the cave is more reputation. So I think that, you're supposed to, be cool in the cave, and then other people in the cave will be cool with you and you get more points. Anyways. So, but yeah, it's a fun little like crossover. Like if you want to try and start getting your board game friends into role-playing games, like it might be a good shot to like just kind of slide over like a little light, choose your own adventure role-playing while you're crushing them with your workers.
The best part is if you play with people who like to roleplay or GM, then you start to get flavor text added to your choose your own adventure.
Yeah. I think that was the first time Brad got squirted with the water bottle for saying something highly inappropriate.
That tracks.
So, yeah. And then, we just...
The other board game was the Cthulhu one. What's it called?
Oh, Elder Sign.
Elder Sign.
Yeah, rolling dice and defeating and/or being driven insane by the Cthulhu mythos.
Right.
So.
Yeah, which I'm not 100% certain if we shouldn't have been driven insane, because it turns out at least 2 people were a little confused on the rule system to begin with, and were maybe doing things just a little bit to our benefit and not to the Cthulhu god benefit.
Yeah, well, we had fun, I guess.
Yeah, we had fun.
Really.
You're gonna mess up rules sometimes.
Yep.
Yeah. No, it's fine. It's a dice rolling push your luck game. Like the rules don't matter. You rolled click clacks and you said, "Oh, it's these symbols," and right. So, but then we got into Friday when we actually broke out a role playing game.
Dan had enough of our shit.
Yeah.
And said, "Squirrels unite."
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was like, we had our patrons voted that
yes,
they wanted Phoenix Dawn Command and Scum and Villainy. So I thought we should play it so we could give them Phoenix Dawn Command,
right.
Scum and Villainy.
Because Scum and Villainy won the so for those that are just joining this now in progress episode, we had a Shelf of Shame episode at the beginning of the year, and we each brought out different books and kind of pitched them. And then we had a little poll on the Discord, and I got some emails.
Oh, yeah, that was everybody, not just the...
Yeah, it was everybody. It
Not
wasn't just the patrons.
Yeah,
I wanted everybody to be involved there. And I got some emails, and those emails added up to Scum and Villainy, which we'll talk about. But Phoenix Dawn Command was right behind that. And it was sort of a neck and neck, like every time somebody voted for Scum and Villainy, they voted for Phoenix Dawn Command, somebody else. So we decided to do why not both. So yeah, we did Phoenix Dawn Command first because Nolan was like, I want to play the role playing games. I don't like these board games and these computer games because you're all here and you've all traveled all this way to get your asses here to play role playing games.
And I have a role playing game with cards and chits and tokens.
Right. It was a good.
I can't play this online.
Right.
Or it would be very hard to play it.
Yeah, and that'll be in the next episode. We'll talk about that. But a brief summary of this 80-pound game is it's I think a good transition between the two. So we'll go further into it next time on Full Metal RPG. So we played that, and then God, my brain is
Friday night we did Ghost Court.
Yeah. Ghost Court.
That's right. We did Ghost Court. That was if you haven't played Ghost Court, Kayla, can you describe? Had you played Ghost Court before?
No, I had not. That was the first time I played Ghost Court.
Okay.
That was definitely interesting. So basically the premise is like somebody plays the judge, someone gets to play the bailiff. You have a plaintiff and a defendant. You are given cards to basically like state who you are and what your case is in this matter. Or like prompts basically. You get to make up the rest of it. And there's court reporter, which may be my favorite portion of the whole game.
Yeah, don't skip on the court reporter. It's legit.
Yes.
Well, you can play. I want to I don't want to dissuade people from playing it with just like 3 people. You could play with 3, but if you have more people, get them involved, get them in the court reporter, the bailiff, the clerk, all those people. But
yeah, you really just can really have the judge and the defendant and
plaintiff,
plaintiff. But that's Jason Morningstar, right?
Yes,
That's
correct.
Yeah. So, it's
Bully Pulpit game.
Bully Pulpit Games. It is a lot of fun. I think I like Goth Court better, but
I've not played Goth.
I played it at Big Bad Con. We had Goth Court, so it was even more delightfully bizarre. But yeah, I think we had some real. Once people figure out we could ham it up, once I stopped being the clerk and organizing the cards and I could ham it up, I think everybody else figured out we could ham it up. And then the real fun.
Yeah, once you start chewing the scenery, you're really on your way.
Yeah, but I think we may have skipped over this. Basically, like, some people are alive and some people are ghosts in this ghost court. And so you have like the living trying to make sure that the dead don't mess up their garden or whatever. Or in some instances, you have ghosts that are just like, they said, "Till death do us part," and they are ready for a damn divorce at this point. So, and it's definitely treated like the court television episode. So like, that's what the reporter comes in for, is to kind of do the wrap up at the end.
Yeah, it's the People's Court. It's
or
really
Judge Judy or whatever. Yeah,
Judge Wapner or whatever.
Any of those.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that once you figure out you can ham the hell out of because the cases only last like 5 minutes max, because it's each player defendant and plaintiff get a minute to tell their case, and the judge gets 3 minutes to ask questions. Now, I think you could just throw the timers out if you really wanted to. Well, I think that might be the first time I've ever played with the actual timers.
Yeah, there's timers to keep it punchy and
yeah. But yeah, I think it's a lot of fun to just like, okay, I'm the new judge and I am now I'm Judge Ironhead and I will listen to your, like, just randomly adopt a stereotype or a good, not a stereotype, at least a good, interesting character for 3 to 5 minutes.
Right. And you can definitely just change the roles every time, so not everybody has to be the judge the whole time. And I would highly recommend this game for anybody that needs any kind of filler game in between.
Or large group game.
It's, it's not super deep, but it is a lot of fun. And thing has 20 or 30 cards for cases in there.
Like 32 cards or cases or whatever.
And there's, 30 some odd cases. And so, each one you can do in 10 minutes, including the setup and teardown or less. And then you can just roll immediately on to the next one. So if you need to play for an hour between things, you can, do 6 or 7 cards, right? And if you need 20 minutes while your friends are out getting pizza, you can play for 10 minutes, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Just slap it on the table like, all right, squirrels, we're playing this, So, and that was a lot of fun. So,
our local group here, when we do our get-togethers, we normally run 3 or 4 tables, and Ghost Court is the game that people will kind of play while they're waiting for the other tables to wrap up. Like, somebody will finish earlier, and we usually like to sit around and have a debrief and talk about all the games that got played that day. But some table will obviously finish 45 minutes early, sit around for 45 minutes.
I mean, do you have a communal gavel for that?
Yes, we do now.
Okay, because
I actually sent them the people that host that.
Because turns out you can buy gavels on Amazon.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the devil, but I mean, it's a gavel. It's a lot of fun to swing around.
Oh, I bought a robe and a wig too.
Okay,
for the judge. Yeah.
Yeah, it should be one of those old fashioned like curled wig.
Yeah, British
curled
British curled wigs. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll be back. And then we played Phase Anatomy.
Yes,
right.
Phase Anatomy.
Which, Nolan, this is your weirdness, so you can.
This is my weirdness. All right. The weirdest game is always Nolan's game, right? Yeah, the weird indie nonsense is me. So this game is a medical procedural game, but full of nerd stuff. The pitch is that it's, kind of like Scrubs or House or any of those things, but like utterly ridiculous. Everybody, all the doctors are vampires or werewolves or ghosts or robots or space aliens or anything you care to have. And
Random humans, you
right.
know.
And it's basically a simple deduction game. Everybody takes on ridiculous roles as doctors and nurses and so forth. And one person who's not even really the GM, they're really just the facilitator, takes on the role of the patient. And the doctors are all trying to deduce what the patient has. And which you just roll, and they have to do these they have to demonstrate these various symptoms, which will cut down on the doctor's options, so they can generally hone in on what supernatural nonsense disease the patient has. But meanwhile, the doctors are using up their resources and getting exhausted and so forth. But the only way to get rid of their exhaustion is to engage in stupid medical show drama and make out in the closet or get addicted to painkillers or whatever. And so it's a silly comedy game about, supernatural doctors treating supernatural disease in a soap opera.
Yeah. I mean, Scrubs.
Yeah.
It's Scrubs, but with supernatural shit, right?
Yep.
Tyler, what'd you think of Phase Anatomy?
I didn't actually play. I went to call it early that night.
Yeah, you went to sleep.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Jake said he was very surprised by it.
Okay. Yeah, because our friend Jake, who is left already on a very early flight, the poor bastard, he was skeptical. He was super skeptical. And then by the end of the game, he was right there with us. And this game, you should be super skeptical when you read the description of this game. Like, this game does not sound like something that would be a lot of fun or would be super serious, but it ends up, because everybody has done the tropes, right? Or watched the tropes on at least one medical show, you kind of get the thing right away. Like, it's really a deduction game. You're like, it could just be the game master, like, it could be the stripped down version of this is like nobody's a doctor and the game master is just acting the symptoms out.
Right.
And they're just like going through the charts, like trying to figure out like what this is, right? It could be charades, basically, is what the basic version of this is.
It's a simple deduction game, right? But all the role-playing stuff you wrap around it makes it, is where all the comedy is, right?
Yeah. Well, and stool sample.
Yeah, exactly. It's by Caleb Stokes, known communist and
Red Market's
and Red Market's author.
Designer.
Designer, yeah.
Kayla, did you play?
I did not. I had
that was me.
all of my gremlins had to run through games for D&D the next day. So
right. Okay, so yeah, I played. This is how my brain is fried right now. It's like, who's played what? So I played Dr. Sir Roger Feynman, the metal skeleton who is a alchemical surgeon. So he didn't cut people up, he burned them open and then poured chemicals inside their cavities to make their filthy human cavities that he doesn't have.
Right.
He also worked at the chemical factory across the street and drank a full thermos of martinis as he walked across the street both ways.
How the skeleton drank martinis, we never figured out.
I was going to say, where did the martinis go?
They were gone.
No one knows.
He never went to the restroom either. So he just magically absorbed. He's a metal skeleton. He's Wolverine without flesh, like red eyes and a medical coat.
Yeah, we had a shark man doctor.
Yeah,
we had all kinds. Yeah,
you can make it as metal as you want. Like this is not just like fluffy happy times. Like you're trying to determine why why there's a werewolf with C. diff in your hospital. Like, what was the
I forget. He had arcane
Finglings?
C. diff of some type. I forget.
Thingling C. diff or something like that.
Yeah,
So,
Fenlang C. diff.
yeah, everything is
Necrophages.
super and natural. Everybody has a super side and a natural side. So that's why I was an alchemical surgeon. Anyways.
Right. Yeah. Or you could be, an occult hospital administrator or a angelic nurse. We had an angelic nurse, right?
Yeah. And everybody had, crushes and rivals and besties and stuff like that. So anyway, that's enough about that game.
Yeah, that's silly.
It's a very silly game that can be as silly as you want it to be.
Yeah. I do think it's a sleeper. I do think it's underrated.
I think, well, you tried to offer it how many times at Gen Con, and it always got overlooked for...
I mean, I was offering Brindlewood Bay opposite of it, and that's a very, very popular game.
Right. Okay, and then the next day, we played All Flesh Must Be Eaten, Conspiracy X, ongoing random game that we've been playing for 7 or 8 years now.
More than that.
Well, it's all no, because Miami Vices is
correct.
So Woodfin, aka Brad, he has been running Southern Cross for 15 years now? 20 years now?
He and Paul were the co-GMs of it originally back in Indiana, in Lafayette.
Right.
So they had it as their co-GM game for the longest time, and that was the more low-powered, more, detective version of it. But when we started our little friend con here, it got flipped over, and Paul kind of decided, it's Brad's thing now. I moved away. Brad's in charge of the thing. And so Brad did it and took it. And eventually we retired those kind of first characters. And now there's like a super overpowered version where everybody has nonsense, and we only play it once a year.
Yeah, I play a werewolf bodyguard, and I remember some of every game, but I'm usually completely trashed when we play this game. So
I'm in charge of taking notes, so I'm the only one that knows what happens year to year.
Yeah. It's we play this game exactly once a year at the convention. So it's like we're 7 or 8 games in. It's been 7 or 8 years since the beginning of Miami Vices, and it's in Miami. So it's always like over the top in some very specific way, like killing a bunch of Russian soldiers and sticking a Pitbull CD in their head and send it back to the bosses.
Yes. And these are the is it Laurel K. Hamilton books? Is that right? Yeah, this is loosely based for those that
less bestiality or whatever. Less large or members.
Those books get a little explicit. I couldn't take it for more than 1 or 2 books, but
right.
Paul and Brad have read all those books,
right? And then you Tyler, you play a ghost, right? Annie.
Absolutely love the character. It is the best character I think and I didn't even come up with it. It was Brad's character. I've added a lot of flavor to it, but in general, college freshman who was adopted at a very young age, and as a freshman, she was abducted by her birth parents, who then took her out into the Florida Everglades and sacrificed her in some sort of dark ritual and became a ghost. So there's a whole lot of really interesting trauma tied to that, which most of the thing I like about Annie is that her grasp on the world is entirely dependent on how real she feels. And so when she starts to lose control over her ability to remain on this world, she has to go and do human things. So the thing I like to do, because she was a college freshman on, I think, a lacrosse scholarship, I'd go for a run. She goes and she what she looks like depends on how she feels. And so she just turns into short shorts and running and goes for a run. Just disappears from the scene for 10, 20 minutes or something. So it's very, very cool.
Yeah. So, and Kayla didn't get to play this year, but you played a social worker hilariously in the last.
Brad handed me a sheet and he goes, "Here, I have this character ready," and I'm reading over it and I'm like, "Okay, yeah, whatever this says, you're a social, like this is a social worker.
Right.
This is the werewolf social worker.
Right.
But I believe it doesn't, like, this person doesn't really have any powers per se. They're just in with the werewolves in a way that is like,
Wait,
You have shamanic powers. You're like a werewolf shaman in training.
yes, I'm in training.
I see.
You're a
powers
werewolf
person.
shaman of some kind.
Yes.
yeah.
Although I will say that the guy that won't play a computer hacker or any kind of computer person
It is a computer person.
is a computer person, and therefore is like, oh, I don't want to do my job in a role playing game. He immediately handed you the social worker character.
To be fair, he's like, we can make you a new character if you want. And I was like, this is ready. Let's go. Let's do this. Like, if something is easy for me to slip into, it would be this character. So
Right.
fine. So then I find that my character is always like advocating for Annie, because it's like we have a certain person who likes to just say, ghost, do your ghost thing.
Yeah. Well, that is kind of the hilarious part of this is, yeah, there's certain roles that everybody falls into, and these characters are probably as close to our character, our personalities kind of have bled a lot into these characters. So, like, I mean, not Nolan with his zombie 70s
Vampire.
playboy. Sorry, no, that's
Yeah.
somebody else.
Paul has
Vampire playboy from the 70s.
Yes, I have the Miami vampire playboy. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, anyway, that game is always interesting, and this time was even more esoteric than it normally is.
Brad
It's pretty
overwrites
esoteric.
everything. Yes.
Brad the overwriter. But yeah, so that was fun. And then we got to Scum and Villainy, which is
Scum and Villainy.
hilariously the topic of this show.
You skipped us eating absolutely entirely too much burritos.
Oh, well, I wasn't going to mention food, but if you're going to go there,
sorry,
so,
it's-
like Mama Tigre, highly recommend. Also
Mexican
figure out how to
Indian fusion.
yeah, Mexican Indian fusion, which sounds weird, and then you're like, wait, a naan and a tortilla are not that far separated. So
Yeah.
and highly spiced food in a wrap with rice, like delicious. Like I'm salivating just thinking about the masala fries that were just, and looking at the chimichanga in marsala cheese that was like bubbling like a cauldron as it come out and sit on the table. Like that shit was good. And then the Korean barbecue place was just outstanding as well. Like I should have been rolled out of there.
That's why we usually walk there. It's just like a little far for a walk, but like
Right.
the walk back is much needed.
Yeah. But yeah, I won't mention the name of that place. Anyways. But yeah, that was the food was great. You always picked a great food. We talked about biscuits at the start of the show. Like I'm gonna go off sweets, I think, for the next month, because we also had amazing German chocolate cake for like 3 or 4 days worth of chocolate cake, and
Pastries and donuts.
yeah, it's disastrous, completely disastrous. But also, speaking of disasters, we're talking about Scum and Villainy.
Yes.
This was the number one pick by the listeners and the people on Discord and the emails to for us to talk about deeply. We're going to talk about it as deep as we can, because this is a Forged in the Dark game that's sort of trying to be Star Wars, Firefly, and Cowboy Bebop all rolled into one. So it's a lot. Kayla, you were super excited about this.
I was. You know what's great is I presented this off of my bookshelf, and then you got conned into running it, which is a win for me.
Wait a minute. Well, you also, to be fair, you also said that you wanted somebody else to run this for you.
I don't think so. That was my
Oh,
that was my
Kids on
Kids on
Broom.
Broom.
Kids
yeah.
on Brooms.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, that was me conflating the two and jumping into the fire for you. So,
And Kayla wins.
and Kayla wins. There's no winners in role-playing games except when there is.
Yes, convenient. Conveniently, I did not have to run this, which is great because I didn't have time to read the book and understand it, because it is one of those, not quite textbook, but like big enough that it's not light reading.
Yeah, it's 360 pages. Now, admittedly, it's pretty large text, and it's a half size A5 book or whatever. But it is like all Fortune in the Dark games. There's a lot of systems. So many systems. They put systems on systems. They did, and it's there. So,
yeah. So much appreciated that you jumped on that grenade.
Well, I try my hardest to be blown up as many times as possible. Live, die, repeat is not a outside the beltway possibility for me.
But yeah, I really enjoyed the game. I know it was kind of like a interesting hodgepodge that we threw together, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So we picked, I think it's the Star Dancer was the ship.
Yeah.
Which is the Firefly ship.
Yep.
You're supposed to be smugglers and just trying to scrape by. You know, that's kind of the idea of, because, you know, in Forge of the Dark, there are kind of like, you want to direct the play by the group playbook, I would call it. It's like a group playbook. In Forge of the Dark, Blades in the Dark, it's your gang. In Scum and Villainy, it's your ship, right? Because everybody knows this is the heart of these kind of games, right, Tyler?
Yeah, and you choose a reputation starting off, and we chose strange as a reputation, and we all leaned into that.
No one was shocked. I was clearly not shocked that this was a strange group.
Yeah, and of course, in Blades in the Dark, we always, not always, but we tend to choose cult as our gang.
I was pressed into joining your cult last time we played Blades in the Dark. I definitely wanted to play something a little bit more aggressive than that, but I drank the Kool-Aid.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you had fun at that particular Blades in the Dark session, and I think what I would say about Scum and Villainy, and it is very much straightforward Forge in the Dark. There's not too many twists, I don't think.
Yeah, that was one of the questions I had. Is like, I didn't read the book. I played with you guys, but I wasn't exactly sure how this wasn't just a straight up reskin of Blades, right? It's like, okay, the gang is the ship.
Well,
very, very similar skills. The skills are swapped out a little bit, right? But even there, they're kind of, the thing for using the Force is basically a tune in Blades in the Dark.
Yeah. The thing that I think makes Scum and Villainy different, other than the skin, right?
Right.
Is the way, instead of having a city you're kind of like confined to because of story quote unquote reasons, and that's really all we wanted to write was one city, and we wanted to make it we didn't want people to run out of this city because that's not the kind of stories we want to tell, so we're going to put demons outside of the city that's impossible to get out of, right?
And yeah, I think that's a game design choice too, where it's like, oh, you guys are always getting into deep shit because like you're scoundrels, and like if you could just run away from the law.
Right. Oh, we're just going to go to the country and hang out till the heat dies down. It's like, no, you need to be in the pressure cooker.
Yeah.
Right. Well, the thing that does that in this is there's always a hegemony, which is some sort of overarching fascist a regime that controls all of the places you can go. So there is no escape from the hegemony. And so your heat levels and your one levels always stay, but some systems you're more wanted by the local officials than others, right? So you can escape somewhat, but you're definitely going to fuck it up when you go to the other systems. Isn't that right, Kayla?
Yep.
So that's kind of like, I feel like that's the difference than just a straight reskin. I mean, a lot of the skin does add more in different flavors, but it's really very close to the and and for better and worse, right? Because like that's my thing about Forged in the Dark is like I love playing it. God, I love playing Forged in the Dark games. Like, give me flashback abilities, and I will have things flying all over the place in whatever heist or maneuver we're doing, right? But to get them set up, I have a 27 pages of paperwork that we have to do before we start.
Right. Like you said, there's not only everybody's character, there's a character sheet for the crew, for the whole ship, right?
Right.
Like you need a team character sheet on top of all the character sheet on top of all the PC's character sheets. So yeah, there's a lot to fill out, a lot to understand, because then people have to make choices on that, and like you have to explain like what does it mean to choose this over that, and yeah, for all those different sheets.
Well, and there's like a billion playbooks too. So let's go through and like figure out who, like, where even is the start of the character sheet.
Yeah, there's like 8 character sheets, I think, and they're all the stereotypical or archetypical characters from all those different games, right? Or all those different IPs, just boiled down into there's the Mystic, which is the Jedi, and or the psychic, or you know, depending on how you build the character.
How you build the Mystic, he'll be more like a Jedi or more like a psychic, yeah.
Right. Or the Muscle, you could be more like Jane or more like Chewbacca, right? Or you know, or what, you know, whatever direction you want to take it, the ship adds the kind of base flavor, and then you start spicing it with how you build your characters, and you could have crossover, and it's all, you know, it is a little this because they're trying to do 3 different things with one game. It kind of can feel a little generic when you're playing it. Like it feels very much like generic science fiction. Like, hey, we can't mention IPs, so we're just gonna not IP it up, right? So
they can't mention IP, but we can as players.
Right. Yeah, we can totally, like, you know, just like write the Bebop over Cerberus, and like we're a bunch of we're the Bebop with bounty hunters, and you can play Jet, and you know, all that. So
yeah, in fact, I think that our ship's name was the Wind, and our captain was Leaf.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Leaf, the non-binary playgirl, playboy, whatever's up, you know, named Leaf. Yeah, but that was like, it was spelled differently. It was spelled in the Scandinavian way, or whatever, LEEF.
I appreciated Nolan's character was a doctor who he intended to play like Dr. House, who ended up being much more like Rick from Rick and Morty.
Yeah, it ended up
but on psychedelics. So it was Rick, but psychedelics.
Yes, that's
right?
true.
Right. So, and we had he was tripping enough. He was seeing the ancient space toads, and they were telling him what to do and hop in the second way and not in the first way.
Yeah. I always like the vices in the Forge in the Dark thing. You recover stress by indulging in your vice, right? And so it's like, oh yeah, I need like drug addicted doctor. That'll be great. Then we picked the weird reputation. I was like, oh, okay. So I'm not just going to do any of those. I'm going to be like a weird psychedelic doctor. And then all of a sudden I was, Rick.
Right. And Kayla, you indulged in the ongoing war to try and free the droids as a droid.
The droid revolution.
So
yeah, I ended up being kind of like some weird hybrid of the droid from the Solo movie L337 and Futurama.
Right.
It's what ended up happening.
Yeah. And someday we'll play that Star Wars game that is free, the Droid Revolution.
That is the Droid Revolution.
I think it's an excellent idea. I may work on that.
I think that's like a 4 to 6 game miniseries. We could probably run that as.
Yeah.
That has more legs than that, I think.
Oh, it has way more. I think you could do a full like weekly campaign for like
Paul
a year
and I
or two.
Are so on board with this.
Yes. So, but
I'm also on board with this, as long as I don't have to know anything about Star Wars.
Because yeah,
you have to know all of the things.
Yeah, you don't have to know all the things, because we're going to go way off the map.
Yes.
I think for that one. Yeah.
Yes, but yeah, I got to play K3, aka Keys.
Yeah, you had a slave name that you were rejecting as well. It was But yeah, I think, and then what were you playing, Tyler?
I was basically playing a reject predator who was malnourished and underfed and very lanky, who obviously had the clicking of the predator and was called Clicks.
Yes, and totally scared the shit out of a waitress in one of the bars that you guys were in.
Clicks thought he was flirting. He said she smelled delicious.
Yep. And eyes got large and like, okay, I'm going to go this way. And, but yeah, so, and the way that it suggests you start is there's kind of some opening situations on the background page for the ship. So I was like, well, I don't have any other ideas, so we're going to just run with this. So I just dropped you guys in a bar with a dead contact that you were supposed to deliver an artifact to. And shenanigans went
we
forward.
turned the introductory trouble into the whole session, didn't we?
We didn't even get to the second scene. Like, we only got through the first scene.
Wow. I wasn't aware. I thought that was it.
I thought that's what had happened.
Let's go.
Yeah. Well,
I thought that's what it happened.
Well, no, it is. It's basically each scene I feel like could be its own session.
Sure.
Right? Because the next scene, so you're supposed to deliver this artifact. Your contact is dead. So that means everybody on the planet's going to be looking for you. So you could have a whole campaign that was just you trying to stay on this moon without getting caught, right?
Right.
But we turned it into, trying. Weekend at Bernie's was mentioned because
Weekend at Bernie's was heavily leaned on.
For kids ask your parents. But anyway, there was a dead contact they were puppeting out of the bar while the robot revolution was kicking off from Kayla talking to the serving droids.
Yes.
There's a speeder bike race.
Keys had a flashback of like popping all of the control chips
Circuits,
off. Yeah.
Yeah. It once Fortune Dark gets going, and it takes a while to get going, it rocks. Like, it rocks the house. You can do, the flashbacks and the prep. Like, the conceit of this is, if you haven't played it, is you generally have a heist or some other objective, and you choose a choice and a detail, the group does, and then the game master goes, okay, I'm going to drop you into action in some way, and then with that detail, and then instead of spending like the next 4 hours planning every move because you're going to make it and being prepared, like, you can just spend the stress on your character to flashback or have something or need something or do something in order to Ocean's 11 your way through this event, right? That you planned on having all these things happen.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Plan the heist in the middle of the heist.
Yeah.
Right. And I just, that's why I love it, because it works so well. And being able to flashback going, I have a great idea I should have had 2 hours ago. Let's do this. Like,
Throw the wheels on while we're driving. Yes.
exactly.
I think it's important that your players in this are all on the same, at least roughly the same page on the kind of heist or the kind of game you want to play. I think that's where we kind of agreed on Strange as our thing. Strange turned into basically Chaos Crew, and we all leaned into that, and we all like our flashbacks and the things that we prepped up, and everything basically moved towards that direction. So it worked out really well. I think that if you have some people doing that and some people not, it might not work out quite as well. But if everyone at the table decides they wanted to be very serious, you could make very, very cool stories as well. It's just a matter of make sure everyone's on the same page and agreeing to go in that direction.
We got thrown into the intro session, of course, so we didn't do this. But typically, that's handled by, you have to choose your approach for a mission. Okay, you're going to get the gemstone, like whatever. Are you going to go in by stealth? Is this a con job where you're going to, go to the ball and steal it? Or is it, what kind of approach is the team using to get this? And that's how you kind of agree on what kind of.
Well, and also in session 0, talking about, and we really did session 0, session 1, all as one thing.
Yeah.
Is talking about, okay, this is the tone I would like to set. Is everybody on board with that? How can, that question, I think, is what Tyler is getting to.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. The approaches help. Like, we're going to do this, but each approach could be wackety schmackety,
Right.
or it could be, all right, it's Matrix time. We're putting our Matrix glasses on. We are going to be very serious and very cool this entire time. And, as we all know, as role players, that's only going to last like 5 minutes. Let's be honest, before somebody makes a terrible joke, and it's gonna end up being a wackety schmackety time. But we're going to try to moderate. But in this case, it's like, no, you guys are strange. So fine, let's go. Let's go.
I know it was the last night of the con, and everybody had a few drinks, and
Yeah, it was the last game we played.
Yeah, I think our strategy there, what our chosen strategy going in was just yes and.
Yeah, that was our yes, and that's exactly what I was doing as a game master. Is like, of course that's what's happening, because that's exactly the way this. It's like, yes, you can flash back to have stolen the biker's keys outside of the bar and have switched who has the keys while stealing the sacred stellar Church of the Stellar Flames
Limo.
church limo mobile to chase on, like,
My favorite part was where someone flashbacked, I think Kayla flashbacked to the junkyard and getting set up with a gigantic magnet. We pulled all the bikers up into the magnet, and the limo came behind it, hit a ramp, spun up like corkscrew, spun up upside down, and crushed the bikers into the magnet. That was a lot of fun.
And then Bernie flying out the
Bernie fell out the sunroof, and he was already dead, but he cracked his neck on the ground as he fell.
Yeah, exactly. So there is a lot of room in here to do what you want. Once you get and I think there's a lot of room for system mastery in this game, that you can really like have a deep knowledge, because every word on the page has something to do with the system, right? It's not just like, like when it says find something, that's actually a quality that I just completely spaced when I read the book.
Oh, you got fine armor or whatever. Fine doctor's bag. Oh, that means that it's actually
like one better level than what a normal person has.
We got a little bogged down in trying to find specific rules about specific things, but I think ultimately we let the rules not get in the way and had a lot of fun with it. So
right. Well, I mean, I think that it would behoove whoever is running this and everybody to kind of get some awareness of how the system works.
Yeah.
And I mean, when the rules reference that comes with the kind of print pack is 3 pages. Now, some of that's like names and other various useful things, but like it's a lot. Like this is not a light game. This is, that dichotomy of story game and crunchy game. That is bullshit. And especially when it comes to 2 particular games, Forged in the Dark and Fate. Come at me. Anyways.
I feel like this would benefit very greatly from a like well-indexed like wiki with all the rules on it. I as someone who plays a lot of 5th edition, I am constantly just Googling specific things and trying to find rules on things, because it's faster than looking up in a book. And that's what I was missing from playing Scum and Villainy.
Yeah, the index is, I believe, woefully inadequate in this book. That would be a major complaint I would have about this book, is like, oh, it's a 4-page index for a 350-page book. Like, that's not enough index or granularity to deal with all that is happening here. Now, admittedly, a lot of that is sections that are the same thing repeated over and over again, like all the factions. There's like 45 factions. There's so many systems. There's all these characters. Like, it's not a dense book, but the rules are dense. So you need a denser index, I believe, is really what the but
So I've not read the book. How's the informational organization? Like from Blades in the Dark that I have read, it's very dense, like you said, but it's pretty well organized for my flavor of brain, but maybe not everyone's.
Right. My issue with reading, when I was reading this book, my issue was it would go deep in the weeds on a subject and then give me a summary page. what I would like to have happen is the summary page be first, and then go, and for more detail, continue.
Would you like to
reading.
know more?
Would you like to know more? And as someone that was trying to cram this in his brain while flying at 60,000 feet, in order to try and like run it in another day or two, like, and keep reading it. I mean, it's really like maybe like 50 to 75 pages of rules. Maybe less than that. Yeah, like 50 pages of actual like rules, but those rules are so dense that but then, it's 50 pages of rules up front, and then there's like a starting the game in the back of the game. Like, and while you thought Blades in the Dark was in love with clocks, like this game is in love with clocks. Like, it suggests like 5 or 6 clocks to start with. And like, because you're going to be dealing with all the factions, and you have to have a clock for each faction, and a clock for, and if you have 45 factions, and you get faction reputation as you're making your characters and making the ship. So you need at least 5 or 6 clocks for all the factions, and figuring out what those factions are doing. If you're going to do a more longer campaign, if you really want to get deep in a game, like this game will let you get deep. Like, but for somebody that wants to just like pick this up and run it, like, you've got to put the time in. And I will admit that I did not put enough time in to really grok.
I will say my notice, and maybe it was a different experience from like the GM prep side of things, but once we got the game going, it seemed like the GM didn't have to do a lot to like keep the storyline going. It was like keep them on the track, basically.
Yeah, it was basically, it's still a little bit of like most story game DNA games where I'm laying track in front of you. Like you've said a thing, it's like, oh, clearly that's the thing, and that's the track we're going, and I know the vague direction I'm going because this is what's going to the goal. And that's what the clocks help with that somewhat, is like, oh, when you see positive reinforcement of, hey, this thing got you a check mark towards getting away, and this got you a thing that says getting caught. Like, it positive reinforcement. The clocks help tell everybody. And that's the thing that I think was, because clocks are in Powered by the Apocalypse.
Yep.
They're in.
And no one understood them when they...
Right. Nobody understood them. And it took Forged in the Dark to say, no, don't put the clocks behind the screen, because that's the thing in Apocalypse World. The clocks are behind the screen. The clocks should be on the table.
Right.
And once you put the clocks on the table, it really changes the dynamic of positive and negative reinforcement. And I think that's really handy in a kind of moving a story in a direction. And I think a lot of people felt like Powered by the Apocalypse didn't have this like directionality thing going on. So, all right. Anybody else have anything they'd like to say about that?
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to what you said there. That, yeah, it has, that definitely there were, I remember early Apocalypse World thing, there were so many forum posts about like, how do fronts work? Why is this clock thing going on? And yeah, you're right. Putting it on the table is good. The other thing that it does that has some relation to the old, it's kind of distantly related to PBTA, is the notion of like the failed rolls tend to generate our own trouble for the next problem down the road, which, like Kill was saying, like RBK was able to quickly put new things in front of us and just keep enough track going forward. And I think that system definitely has proven to work in previous games and works here too.
Right.
I will also say, if you are used to much more, like transactional systems like D&D, you roll a dice and you do the one specific thing. Transitioning into something like this where it's much more narrative driven. So it's more like PBTA, right? Things, but I think it's less narrative control than a PBTA thing, because you're not making specific moves. You're trying to overcome a thing, and you have like a target thing you're rolling dice for. But it's much more than the specific narrowly tailored thing of a D&D roll, like roll the thing to climb the rope, right? I'm trying to escape from a narrative problem, and I can roll the dice to do that. And I can, as depending on the success or failure of the dice, I can kind of narrate how that happens.
Right. Rolling a skill, because it's a skill-based game, it's sort of weird skills, but one skill roll could be, oh, I shoot my blaster, but one skill roll could be like, I navigate an entire nebula and I do these crazy maneuvers and lose this person, right? It could be the variable in the reaction from a skill is way higher than almost any other kind of game.
Yeah,
So-
because the shoot the blaster, right, is even that is not necessarily firing it once, because it depends on what you get for your effect, right? Because
Right.
you have a much better effect. You might be able to fire it a half dozen times, or spray your blaster fire across an entire crowd or something like that. Like it's
Yeah. Or a bunch of bikers who are
Or a bunch
you're
of bikers, yeah.
you're chasing from your church limo. Kayla, do you have anything?
No, I think that pretty much sums it up. I had a great time.
All right. Well, Nolan.
Oh, I would just say one thing I think our group in particular would benefit from is at some point I'd like to get us to run at least a mini series kind of length Forged in the Dark thing, because we keep doing the system and we get the group sheet and our character sheets, and some of the later stuff in there never pays off, and we never really truly build the system mastery of like understanding how it all works together, because if we played this online for 4 weeks, we'd have a much better understanding of Forged in the Dark.
Well, and I was thinking about this, and the question would be, because I've run this, would I keep running this? And the answer is yes.
Mhm.
Yes, I would. I have my growing pains with it. It is like pulling out, like Forged in the Dark is its own particular thing. It's like a Power by the Apocalypse metastasized in many different ways, right? So I would, yes, I would run it. And I have considered maybe doing so after the next break, during a break from Cyborg.
Okay.
So maybe we'll run more of it. I don't know. We'll see. After I read more of this book. And I know I said deep dive, but this is, anyways, I'm bad. I'm a bad person. I feel bad. Anyways, I should.
Why do you feel bad for running a game for us?
We had fun.
Yeah, everyone had fun, right? So,
I had a great time.
yeah. Well, that's great. That's all we can ask for. There is that. I'm trying to help other people, and I feel like I didn't completely grok the whole game and bring the whole game to them, but I feel like this is a good sampler. And so if you're interested in what we're saying, you can pick up a copy. I think Evil Hat still sells this even after I found my receipt and I bought this in 2018. So like I still see it on shelves.
Yeah,
so
I think it's still in print.
it's still in print. So thanks everybody for talking about this. We'll talk about Phoenix Dawn Command the next episode after a short break. For 2 weeks for everybody else and a few minutes for us. So and I want to thank all the patrons. I would like to thank our new patron, Angry Piper. I'm going to get in touch after this to see if you're on Discord, to add you to the Discord channel that every patron gets access to, where I ask weird questions and we have interesting discussions. And if you want to ask a question of a guest and I have time before I record, I will ask if you have any questions for that guest. And we did a whole thing about the last question last episode, but I'm not going to ask any last questions because it's not the last question we're going to do in this session. So, but yeah, if you'd like to be a patron, patreon.com/fullmetalrpg, or if you want to know anything more about or get on that Discord, which is probably the best thing I've ever done, let's be honest, is keep that Discord alive. You can go to fullmetalrpg.com for our link tree. Or if you'd like to email us, fullmetalrpgbiz@gmail.com. There won't be a video version of this show, but I might stick it up with the Scum and Villainy cover on YouTube, because we have a YouTube channel, because everybody keeps saying, you had a YouTube channel? I didn't know that. So there's a YouTube channel. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Rah.